one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the October 25th, 2012 meeting of the Radnor Township Environmental Advisory Council. First item on our agenda is the review and approval of the minutes. The minutes of our previous meeting held on September 27th, 2012 have been circulated for review. Does anyone have any corrections or changes to the minutes? How about a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. The minutes are approved. And thank you, Anne and Sloan, for preparing the minutes of our last meeting. And yes, right. And thank you for preparing the minutes of this meeting as well. Actually, Anne does need to leave shortly after 7, so if that happens, maybe somebody can just pick up at the end. But I think we'll probably have a pretty quick meeting tonight. Next item on our agenda is announcements, and I want to announce that we have an upcoming program in our sustainability series that'll be held on Thursday, November 29th, right here in the Township building at 7 p.m., and that program will focus on stormwater resources, and Vivian Williams from the Stroud Water Research Center will be here speaking. This is the Stroud Research Center is a Chester County nonprofit dedicated to scientific research of wetlands, streams, and rivers. So we are co-hosting that, as always, with the Radnor Conservancy. More information will be posted, I think, on their website fairly soon. But if you want to just note that on your calendar to save the date. Next item of announcements is the Garrett Hill Coalition will be having their rain garden workshop on October 27th, which is this Saturday, from 9 to 3 p.m., and that will be installation of a rain garden at Clemmercrone Park. What they'll be doing is having a program. They'll actually be installing a rain garden there, and you can come and participate. It will be a hands-on demonstration of how to construct a rain garden, and it says interested individuals and families can come to the workshop on October 27th to help or just to watch the fun. Provide information on rain gardens, including understanding the functions and benefits of rain gardens and native plants, choosing a site and size for rain garden, designing and building a rain garden, selecting native plants, and using good planting and mulching techniques. So a lot of good information, and it should be a nice day for the event in that you'll not only hear about it, but you'll actually be able to see it and participate. So if you have any interest in it, if you're thinking about perhaps putting a rain garden in, I'd encourage you to attend that event.
Friend, I think
Yep.
I don't have my notes in front of me, but the last meeting we announced a couple of these stormwater education opportunities. And I think last month, or earlier this month, I should say, there was an event held here, I believe, right?
That's right, and I think that was same topic, stormwater, and it was Garrett Hill Coalition, and it was, I think, describing rain barrels and other means of managing stormwater, and then this will be the follow-up, and it'll be hands-on.
Rain gardens.
Right.
Okay, so what I was going to suggest is, since there's a lot of interest in the neighborhood right now, and we are talking about helping out the township installing a rain garden at Cowan Park, and it sounds like that's probably going to be happening in 2013, early 2013. It'd be great if one of us could get to one of these rain garden education seminars, just to have sort of a baseline education.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm planning to be at this one. I don't know if I'll be there for 6 hours, but I'll definitely be there and
That's great.
meet who needs to be there. And
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
all right.
Okay. All right. I also just wanted to do a quick report out. I had missed the meeting, the AC meeting last month because I was at the Delaware Valley Green Building Council's annual Green Building Celebration, which was held down at the Barns. And I just want to note it was a really fabulous event. There was so much energy around green building, so much energy around the U.S. Green Building Conference, Green Building Council, Green Build Conference coming next year. And if you haven't been down to the Barns building, I would so so recommend it, because not only do you have this world-class art, but it's world-class architecture. You wouldn't believe the building they've created. It's gorgeous, and it's green building, it's LEED Platinum, and they have lots of information to describe what they've done down there. So I'd really recommend that. And there's also a video on the Barnes website that shows some of the green aspects of their building.
I really appreciated your email report on it. It sounds like it was amazing. And I just wondered, do you think there's any resource that either from the Barnes or from from the building council that could come and talk about either the Barnes, the building itself, which sounds like really a star in that field.
Yes, it is.
Or more broadly, what it means to be sort of LEED certified and all that. I mean, since we're, when we get to the institutional zoning, that's one of our components, the LEED certification. I'm just wondering if in that community there's somebody who you think we might be able to get to come and give a little explanation on either the Barnes or more broadly the sort of what it means to be that LEED certified.
Right. And I don't know about the Barnes, but it might be worth reaching out.
Maybe that's too narrow. I don't know.
Right, but
That may be
certainly
too-
the Delaware Valley Green Building Council is
think we could
full
get
of
somebody?
folks, absolutely.
And also,
Absolutely.
Villanova has been a leader in green construction, and the law school is LEED certified, as well as other new buildings they've done. So I might be able to get someone from Villanova to come and talk about the process and some of the things they've done on campus.
That would be, well, I am, and I didn't want to sort of say, well, I could do it for you, Sloan, but I could do it for you, Sloan, right?
But there may be somebody who does it for a living or who is very close to a particular project like the law school or something. I mean, unless you're anxious to do it.
It should be very good.
I know.
I could, right.
Maybe
right.
after you're off the EAC. come
That's
back and
right.
do it.
That's how you could schedule me for 2013. Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Although one of the things that we had discussed previously, and we just haven't moved on it, was we've talked about maybe having an EAC meeting out at Villanova and have, just because we have this great green building, they have a few green buildings out there,
Right.
and have a tour of it so people can actually see this green feature and that green feature versus sitting here.
Can we have a meeting elsewhere, or is that
I think that we can. It's been done before.
good? I think
Yeah.
it's a great idea.
Yeah, if we plan that for when there's daylight at this time, they also have a really extensive stormwater
Right.
practice all across campus. Yeah, I mean, they're sort of scattered all over campus and being monitored, and
That would be
sort of there's a whole graduate program for urban stormwater management.
Yeah.
So it might be something that, we could go look at a building, and on the way to the next building, you walk past some of these stormwater features. So it could be sort
Right.
of more comprehensive look.
That would be great.
So given that I have one more EAC meeting before I'm retired, somebody should make a note to put that on your 2013
plaque ready.
agenda. Right. But I think it's a good idea, and I think it would be, educational, because we can probably, tape it and play it too, I would think. You can talk to Jim Doling about that, but I
A
think
tape
he's
of what?
of like the tour, perhaps,
tour,
the
yeah.
EAC meeting or the tour, something like that,
Right.
and then perhaps put it up on the on the
green
television,
page
right.
or Right.
Yeah, right, or the green page.
Good.
Yep, okay. But I'm happy to come and talk and explain it
Good.
as well if you'd like. Okay. And then I think the other thing I just want to note on that, I have mentioned a few times that huge green building conference coming to Philadelphia in 2013. And I'll be on the host committee for that, and I'm on the tours and education subcommittee. So if anybody else is interested in getting involved in any of that, let me know. I mean, I think it's going to be really exciting for Philadelphia to have all of the, 30,000 people coming here to see what kind of sustainability and green building projects we have going on here.
Did you happen to get out to San Francisco this year?
I'm going. It's going to be the second week in November.
Oh, it's the second week. So it's the
Yeah.
same as November 2013 as Philadelphia's, I assume?
Yes,
Really?
yep.
Okay.
Same, right. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to report out on was the U.S. Green Building Council Green Apple Day of Service, which was on September 29th. I had talked about this at a prior meeting, and a bunch of schools in this region had projects. I attended the one at Ithan Elementary School, and they had set up a project to kind of tackle an overgrown bird blind, it was overgrown with weeds and things like that. We weeded it out. We did pruning of shrubs and planting, and really, designed a nice place not only to attract wildlife, but to be a part of the sort of educational curriculum for the kids as well. So it was a really nice event. This Green Apple Day of Service is designed to promote the greening of schools around the world, and they said that there were more than 1,250 service projects held that day in 49 countries around the world, all on this Green Apple Day of Service. So I would encourage folks that have any connection with the school to, talk to people about that now and kind of get them thinking about next year, because I think it's a nice opportunity not only to do something locally, but to be part of something bigger that really thinks about the environment for our kids' education. Okay. Does anyone else have other announcements they'd like to add? No? Okay. Next item on the agenda are our work group reports and discussion. The first item there is our Greenhouse Gas Action Plan and Radnor Green Team. And I just want to note that, as we've said before, Melissa Kahn is kicking off the Green Team. She'll be leading it, and she has tentatively scheduled a kickoff meeting for November 8th at 10 a.m., where she'll have the team present, and she's invited the EAC to come and provide support. She emailed this morning to, I guess, the subgroup of people that said that they were interested in being involved in that, and hopefully folks can attend. I didn't see any responses back, but hopefully that date will work and get some people there. It's November 8th, and I can look on my... Is it a Thursday? Yeah. Okay. So for those that received the email, let me know if you can attend, because I want to make sure that the meeting is covered and that we do have people there. Okay. All right. Josh, was there anything besides the Green Team that you wanted to report on, greenhouse gas actions? Okay. All right. Very good. Next item then is sustainability. And first subtopic there is water sense. We have two items, our usual EAC tip of the month, but before we get to that, there was a resolution proposed at the last meeting by Sloan in support of a Pennsylvania tax holiday for water sense products. So Sloan, why don't I turn it over to you and you can kind of fill us in.
Absolutely,
Okay.
thanks. The idea is that several states have given a tax holiday for water sense products. Georgia just had one in the first week of October. Virginia as well. They also included in Virginia Energy Star equipment as well as water sense. Did some work after our last meeting on a resolution, and have passed that out to the EAC. We can read it here. I did get some comments before the meeting, which I think we should discuss before we discuss the full resolution. Brenda had the good idea to actually add a whereas clause that acknowledges that, sort of explains why we're doing this, what's prompting us here, and she pointed out that as a promotional partner in the Water Sense program with the EAC, with the EPA, excuse me, it's part of what we signed up to do is to promote and encourage the use of water sense products. And so this idea would be to lift the profile of water sense products and encourage the leaders in the state to create a small, modest incentive for folks to go out and get water sense products. And so I think that's a great idea. I'll add that. It's not in the draft that I just handed out, but I will add that. And we'll also change the language to make it a little clearer that this is meant to be a sort of a recommendation rather than an actual declaration of what the state should do. It's, our job is sort of recommending, so we'll make this a recommendation. So those are a couple of comments. I don't know if it makes sense for me to read the whole thing, or...
Why don't you go ahead and
Sure.
read it, and then
Happy
maybe
to.
add the whereas clause if you have it there,
and
too.
as background, in terms of folks may be scratching their heads and saying, well, Pennsylvania, we're not Georgia, we're not Virginia, maybe we have a better water situation than some of the states that are hardest hit. There is some pretty interesting material about the drought experience in Pennsylvania, which is actually worse than I'd understood. And there's some citations that I put at the bottom of the resolution, but Penn State's done some good work on droughts in Pennsylvania. They note that they have a frequently asked questions about drought on their website, and they started off by saying, how frequently do droughts occur in Pennsylvania? And they answer, extremely serious droughts have occurred in Pennsylvania at approximately 30-year intervals, and minor droughts occur much more frequently. And Pennsylvania has experienced significant droughts in 5 of the last 7 years. So that, I think, is a pretty dramatic fact. So with that in mind, the resolution is, whereas droughts have occurred with increasing frequency and severity in Pennsylvania over the past 2 decades, and there are citations for support of that statement. Whereas Pennsylvania has experienced significant droughts in 5 of the last 7 years, whereas the average family of 4 uses approximately 400 gallons of water every day, whereas citizens of Pennsylvania can significantly reduce their water use by installing faucets and appliances which bear the WaterSense label from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Therefore, be it resolved, and we would add the WaterSense partner resolution, or where we have a draft that Brenda supplied, which says, whereas Radnor Township is a promotional partner in the United States EPA's WaterSense program, which promotes water efficiency and conservation through public education and water-efficient WaterSense labeled products and programs.
And I would probably just insert that as the 4th whereas clause. So right before the whereas clause that talks about where's the citizens of Pennsylvania. Okay. Yeah.
So this would be the Radnor, okay, partnership, promotional partner, okay. So therefore, be it resolved that in order to encourage Pennsylvanians to conserve water, I guess we'd say the EAC, or the Radnor EAC, recommends that the General Assembly and Governor of Pennsylvania should declare a tax holiday for up to 1 week on all products bearing a WaterSense label. So
Do you want to think, Sloan, about maybe making that an annual week
I like it.
tax holiday?
Yeah.
And tie in with, does the state recognize a conservation week or month?
That's a good idea. I'll check if there's a conservation, or maybe there's an obvious. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah,
People
yeah.
are thinking about it because of other events. And
Right.
You could tie the tax holiday into that every
Right.
year.
How about Earth Day?
Or Earth Day. That's a good
Really?
idea. Tied to Earth Day. I don't know if there's any reason behind. I mean, both Georgia and Virginia, I believe, chose the same early October timeframe. I don't know if that was just coincidence, but let me say I'll put Earth Day in, unless I find when I do some research that there's some conservation week in Pennsylvania that's a better tie. But I think Earth Day is a good idea. So around Earth Day. Now, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Virginia, it was a tax long weekend. I thought a week is a little bit more flexible, but I'll make those changes. So, I don't know if other ideas or other thoughts. We talked a little bit about maybe adding Energy Star. I thought that was a little, Josh made the point it might be a little broad out of the box. So, focus. We're WaterSense partners, so it's a
right.
good role for us.
And what do you anticipate happening, if so the resolution passes,
Yeah.
then what are your anticipated next steps?
I think what would be nice would be to think about other organizations that might be interested and supportive of this resolution, whether it's other towns that have EACs that might be interested, or the Radnor Conservancy or other groups that might be interested and supportive of it, and see if they would like to, perhaps join the resolution. I don't know if that's exactly how we do it, or just be aware of it, or join a letter that might come from a number of organizations to some maybe legislators who could get something like that going.
Yeah, I think it'd
and-
be important perhaps to reach out to our legislators and determine how best they think
Right.
It should be moved along.
Right, and at your suggestion, I've also sent it to some of the Board of Commissioners to see if there's if they have any comments or suggestions on moving it forward. So I'll I guess maybe if it passes here with these changes, I'd try to report back on the feedback there and other ideas in terms of other groups that might be interested. So.
There's is it PEC, Kiet,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
You might be a
Yeah.
good resource for something like
That's
this.
an excellent idea.
He has a great distribution list of EACs
Oh, right.
and other organizations that, I think he's got some other organizations in
Okay.
that list of people
Is
who are.
I've seen emails.
Oh,
Right.
we have his.
So he's with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, and he is in charge of the EAC network for
EAC,
this
yeah.
region.
Great. Okay.
And Peck is also in other parts of the state, so perhaps you could ask him, if he could circulate to other EACs
Right.
locally, see if they're interested, but then also reach out perhaps to other areas of the state, since he's got, networks that reach
Right.
across the state too.
Okay. Well, let me do that, and
Good idea,
obviously,
Josh.
that's a great idea. And if other organizations like that come to mind, please let me know, and we'll reach out. But so should I?
Sloan, I just
Yeah.
add one there, the Philadelphia Water Department, I know we're getting sort of more urban there, but I mean, they've just got a huge, effort in place to improve all the aspects
Yeah,
of
I've
water in
seen
the
their
city.
name
Yeah.
come up as a.
And I know some of the public relations people there, so I could
Okay.
get you in touch with some people there.
That's great. That would be great.
Might just sort of carry some weight to have, if we could get a big urban center behind it,
Or, I mean, I think most of us around here are served by, is it Aqua, Pennsylvania?
Mhm.
I don't have any contacts there, but I'll just throw that out there, that
Yeah, they may.
they have a huge stake in drought conditions in the United States, or in the Pennsylvania.
I've got contact with Aqua.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
As well as I could give it to Bill Adolph.
Oh,
our
could
state
you?
rep.
Oh, good. That would be
So,
great.
we get it finalized.
Okay, let me, what I'll do is I'll, if we approve it, I'll clean it up and circulate to everybody. And then I'll also report back on what commissioners say in terms of comments or, obviously if they have major changes, I think we'd probably come back and revise it, but hopefully it would be general support and, helpful suggestions on other groups that might be interested. So, I don't know if we should I,
Are we good? Does anyone have any other changes to that?
so the changes to the written resolution were that we were going to add a fourth whereas, as Brenda circulated, noting that, the Water Sense Promotional Partnership of Radnor, and that we're going to turn it into an EAC recommendation. And Chris recommended that it be we at least suggest that it be an annual tax holiday linked to Earth Day. So
Okay.
those changes, unless
Or a conservation week
Or
or
a
something.
conservation week.
Maybe there's a water conservation week already.
right. I'll put. I guess what I'll do is I'll say either or, and then maybe looking into it, if there is a really good Pennsylvania week, I'll put that in. If not, it'll be Earth Day.
Okay, makes sense.
I think it's a great thing. I think it would have the most impact if obviously if it wasn't just Radnor submitting this to the Pennsylvania government. If there's some way where we could get all the EACs in Pennsylvania to endorse this, then be wow,
Right,
a lot of people
I
are
agree.
behind this,
Right. No,
So
I think that's
I hate to
key.
delay things, it's like this happened quick. It was organic.
Right.
We nailed it. It's sweet and simple, and trying to get everybody is going to be a little bit more difficult. But maybe it's worth, at least like you said, worth a shot.
I
to
think it is.
Put it out there and see how fast something like that could get put together.
I think the whole goal would be to get it out and hopefully other EACs like it and want to support it, because I think that's how people would take notice and do the work to actually make it happen.
I have to believe it would be fairly easy to get support for something like this. I can't imagine it's going to be that controversial. You're only talking about a few days. You're only talking
Right.
about some
And
faucets and toilets and
Right.
sinks and
Right. So I don't think it's a huge matter, but we'll see. We'll see what comes
Right.
back. And
Okay.
I did note, I don't think we need to get into this detail at this point. Georgia was limited to appliances up to $1,500. So it may be that in the process of carrying forward, people will want to modify it. But this is a sort of a broad,
You could
big picture.
let the Pennsylvania state government throw in those things.
You're right,
The number
right.
crunchers would I'm sure need to work on it, but at least it would show support for it and.
Okay. So does somebody want to move to approve that resolution?
I'll move to approve it.
Someone want to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Motion is approved. Thank you, Sloan. Okay.
Oh, and I guess,
Yeah.
do I need to do the tip here?
Yeah, you still need to do that, right? Monthly tip.
Exactly, wouldn't want to miss that.
Don't fall down on your job now.
That's right. So on the WaterSense site, there are tips for saving water in the kitchen, including plugging up the sink when you're washing dishes. When you use a dishwasher, make sure it's fully loaded if you can before you run it. And keep a pitcher of drinking water in the refrigerator instead of letting the faucet run until the water is cool, or thaw in the refrigerator overnight rather than using a running tap of hot water, and adding food waste to your compost pile instead of using the garbage disposal. I guess the garbage disposal uses a lot of water. So those are some tips. There.
That's interesting, that last one, because, and I think, again, it was the Philadelphia Water Department. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but some big entity came out and was really promoting to put as much into your garbage disposal as you can.
Well, maybe they want
because
us
that
to-
sludge that comes from it, they then use to burn energy to power the treatment plants.
Well, there may be some very
Biosolids, right?
yeah. They must be way ahead. I think this is probably for the more.
I was going to say
basic.
the more bio stuff that needs to be broken down that you put into your waste stream has to go then to the treatment plant and be broken down by the bacteria there, right? And the more the term is escaping me right now, but the more oxygen demand, I guess it's called biological oxygen demand, or mass that you send down that thing, the bigger the treatment plants have to be. So sometimes, when you're at a point where the treatment facility is maxed out in terms of capacity, You'll hear about townships that have put restrictions on people installing garbage disposals just for that reason, because they can't take any more solids. So it's very interesting that you said that. I've never heard of that one before.
Yeah, the water company, just because I was involved a little bit with it, is in the process of installing a $45 million biofuel energy plant at one of their wastewater treatment facilities, where they do exactly what you said, is they take that and they're going to spend that $45 million because it's going to make economic sense from an energy usage standpoint.
Great. Well, it sounds like they're probably ahead of the game in terms of being able to actually use it to fuel the plant, so
That's new stuff.
that's cool.
I also think where it came up, and I was aware of the same reports that Dan mentioned, was in Philadelphia, where probably composting is more complicated, so it was a way of also of getting trash out of the waste stream.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next item under sustainability is rain gardens, and we did already make the announcement about the program this Saturday, rain garden installation, Garrett Hill project. I don't know, do we have anything further or no further updates on rain gardens, Dan?
I don't have anything further.
Okay, all right, very good. The next item that we have on the agenda was this Planning Commission institutional zoning, and I know Sloan and a few
Yeah.
others have been involved with that. Do you want to report
Yeah.
out on that?
Yeah, I just before the meeting got a revised copy of the planned institutional zoning draft ordinance from Charlie Schmale, the township consultant, and I haven't gone through it in great detail, and sorry I didn't bring copies, but he sent an email which says, in part, it says, we did a little bit more work on the green incentives, as well as incentives to permanently preserve land next to homes and parks. The Planning Commission and the public are very concerned about anything that allows increased intensity of development. And he says, I've looked at a number of green incentives in other ordinances and haven't found too many examples that are directly applicable to Radnor. So with that, just briefly looking at what he has sent, it looks like it's been expanded in terms of green incentives. It continues to have the allowances or the variances for solar screens, solar panels. They've added a definition of the green roof and an allowance for 30% greater maximum building coverage. I will forward this to the EAC so everybody can see it, but the highlights look like they continue to have the LEED certification provision in. They've added one dear to my heart: for every electric recharging station that is provided for electric motor vehicles, the number of required off-street parking spaces may be reduced by 2 spaces, and one for extra motorcycle parking spaces. They've added a provision about late night noise causing activities, which I think you mentioned about a noise provision in the draft ordinance. So it looks like nice improvements, but I'll send it around, and please let me know or Skip know if there are other comments, because I think it's still very much under discussion and development.
Yeah, and Skip did reiterate that last time. He said that this was going to be a much longer process than maybe we had first imagined.
Right.
So there's plenty of time to get into this game. But I wanted to go back to your first point. Your first point was that it is Charlie's opinion that the township and the planning commission is generally opposed to anything that would promote more intense development. I'm not sure exactly what that definition of intense is, but one of the some of the thought these days in developing these kind of planned institutional or institutional development or commercial development is to get away from the sprawl model and allow more intense, is the word that I would have used had I not heard that they're against intensity. How about more dense development, possibly dense meaning higher, or not requiring as much parking spaces, or being close to transit. There's a lot of things that go into that, and the idea is that you can buffer your way around any unpleasant aspects of it, because these things, because they're more intense, they can actually have bigger setbacks. They can be further away from roads. They can be further away from neighboring properties, and so anytime I hear somebody saying we don't like intense development, I get a little bit nervous, because the code that we have now gives us that sprawl, that limited height and setbacks of 50 feet and whatnot. That's not a whole lot. So,
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think he's probably referring to a concern about intense development without the kind of trade-offs that you're talking about, where maybe there's a bigger buffer, or a large piece of property has a small area that's intensely or densely developed, and other parts of it are left natural. So it's just one line, and I think I know there's been a lot of discussion at the Planning Commission meeting. So I
remember. Was it?
I went to the first one.
You also spoke to somebody in Doylestown, and I spoke to somebody in Westchester, who had these kind of bonus
right.
development programs where with X kind of a green feature,
right?
They give these bonus things, and they were generally, if the ones in Doylestown maybe not, but the ones in Westchester, they were generally related to intensity. They allowed you to put extra height to your buildings. They allowed you to get away from parking spaces.
Right.
And that's certainly one of the things that LEED encourages. So if you look through even just like a summary sheet of the LEED checklist, they're looking for folks to, take measures to make the site more sustainable. So as you say, condense it. So maybe it's taller, but then you're leaving more area as green. And
Right.
I attended one of the meetings, I think not the one that Sloan was at, and I think it's going to take very strong pushback to get them to consider height. There's a lot of opposition to height. The sense seems to be that having tall buildings, even if they're pretty well set into campuses, is going to change the feel of the township. And to me, that's ill-advised, because height is the way you can keep green space and still have appropriate use. I don't think that they're recognizing realistically the demand, the need for space that institutions have, and that they need it one way or the other, and that the best way to have it with the least environmental impact is to get it by having people go up. But certainly there was very strong opposition, and the discussion of imposing such setback limitations that I'm not sure there would be anybody in the township that would be able to meet them. So I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's reflected in his comment.
I think you're right. I do think it's well worth people's while to at least watch the Planning Commission discussions, because they've been very interested and at times pretty heated. So I think and if you can go, I'm going to try to go to at least a few more.
When is this coming up next?
I don't have the dates, although Skip has them. They've been meeting, really every 2 weeks, and I know
Yeah, I'm sure it's on the website.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But it's there are a lot of them, and I think if not all of them, at least some of them are worth going to or watching. So. But please, I will send it to the EAC. Please comment, and we'll feed it back to Skip, and, you know, defer to him in terms of when he feels or if he feels it's necessary for us to go and continue to push for this. But I think they've made a lot of good progress, and you know, it seems encouraging, even though we're not all the way to approval. So.
Okay, thank you. Next item, we have community environmental awareness, and I know we continue to put this on the agenda, and then Josh, I always look to you, so I don't know if you want me to just drop it from the agenda at this point.
No, not yet.
Okay,
Not
all right.
yet. I mean,
What do you have?
I'm not as active as I was a year or two ago at Wayne Elementary School, but just yesterday something came to mind. I mean, we've always said that we need to get these kids recycling in the lunchroom because they're not right now. The kids they're not recycling. I think I told you I was at 5 lunches in a row, and I saw one child put something in the recycling bin, and I was at all 5 lunches. But my wife is active in the Health and Wellness Committee. That's also part of the PTO at Wes, and they have a lot of volunteers on that committee. And I happened to be walking through the living room when I heard them talking, and I just threw that out there. I
Good
said,
job.
because they're in the lunchroom, you know, they're doing salad bar, they're doing smoothies and whatnot for these kids, and I said, you know, here's an idea, and I think they're actually it's caught some traction. So they are going to be promoting recycling in the lunchroom to the kids, and I think it might have something to do with just taking samples of what can be recycled and gluing them to the top of the recycling bin, something as simple as that, and then having volunteers in there to sort of, you know, block the kids from the trash can and shuttle them over to the recycling bin, just to, you know, for maybe like a couple days as a education.
Developing habits is
Developing
the key,
habits.
right?
And
May take them more than a couple of days, but once you get them in the habit of doing the recycling.
Yeah, and there's, I was telling Jen that my wife that there are obstacles. You know, these kids come up to the trash can with a full thing of milk. The carton is recyclable, but you can't dump the milk into the recycling bin, right? So there are some kind of little bit of hurdles we got to get over up there. You know, maybe it involves a liquids disposal container or something like that. But whatever, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get these kids recycling, because, like you said, not only does it take time to figure it out in the lunchroom, but, you know, it takes time to develop it as a lifetime habit, and that's the time to do it, in my opinion. I think that's one of the best things that a green committee at the PTO can do, would be to just instill recycling as a first instinct, right?
That's great, and I know Peggy Hagan has sort of made a standing suggestion to us and to the schools that there be some sort of competition or some effort to have the kids design a recycling sign or something that she can use in the township literature. So maybe that's something that the Green Committee can mention.
Look at me.
Or maybe you can design it.
I'll give it to the Health and Wellness Committee.
The Health and Wellness.
Call Josh's wife.
You make it a competition,
Yeah,
and you provide a pizza party for a winning school.
that's what I'm
It's a
talking about.
done deal.
Yeah, pizza party.
How do we do that? How does that happen?
Stickers. They respond to just about anything. Anything that's an award or a reward, especially food. Man.
So like a competition either to do the poster, or even better, you know, which school recycles the most. You know, but who would?
I think you need to reach out to whoever is in charge of the Green Committee at each of the schools and ask them to do it, because I think they are a committee. They perhaps looking for agenda items, and so if you give them an idea, they can run with it. But otherwise, you know, they may just either be focusing on whatever happens to be in front of them, or responding, you know, to other directives. But I bet if you reach out to the green committees at each of the elementary schools, you say, here's the thing, let's, you know, either work together on it or have a competition, they would probably pick it up and run with it.
I think you're right. I think I can speak for the Wayne Elementary School Green Committee in that it would be helpful to have manpower, people that had some time and some passion and some drive to get it rolling, because I think we're just a little bit light right now on people who have the time to spend on something as important as this. I'm pointing to myself, basically. I don't have the
Right.
time anymore to do it. So
Maybe what it takes is somebody to just Sloan or somebody else to sit down and think, okay, if I'm going to do a poster competition, what would be the rules? And like write up, here's poster competition. It has to be whatever size, 8.5 by 11 or poster size paper, needs to be handed in by this date, needs to address whatever it needs to address. For more information, contact and leave a blank, and then you could put in the Green Committee person. But to kind of have a little bit of it prepackaged and then say, hey, would you be willing to do this? And then they can run with it. Because if you just say, hey, do this, then they have to sit down and think, okay, how would I do it, versus being given the tool to just say, okay, yeah, I got it. All I need to do now is put a little announcement on the PTO website, have the principal or whoever announce it in the morning, and just roll with it. At least that was how it worked with this Green Apple Day of Service. So I reached out to the Green Committee at Ithan. Said, Green Apple Day of Service, this is a terrific opportunity. And Esther Choi, who's heading that up over there, sort of said, okay, that's fine, I'll do it. And then she kind of ran with it, got the whole thing organized. She talked to the principal, she talked to teachers. It was sort of easy for her because she'd been presented with an idea, and there was a framework, and she could work with it. Versus, I think if you just give the idea with no framework or tools, it may or may not get picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And give them a deadline, too, that helps. Like that was the Green Apple Day of Services on September 27th or whatever it was. So she knew that's what she would have to work toward, and trying to get under the principal's agenda was easier, saying, well, this is when it's going to happen. We have to talk, even though you're busy and it's the beginning of school year. If we're going to do it, we certainly have to talk before September 27th.
And how teed up was the idea? I mean, did you have materials from the underlying?
So for that, I didn't have any particular materials. The U.S. Green Building Council had a website, Green Apple Day of Service. Here's some ideas on projects you could do. Fill out a form. Tell us what your project is. She thought of this idea. She filled out the form. She then said, do you have like flyers or materials or something? And they're like, we really don't have that. So she made up her own. Well, Green Apple, come on out. We'll do it. This is the day. Bring your gardening tools. We'll meet at the bird blind. And she ran with it. And I'm guessing that at other schools, they probably have somebody else in a similar role, that if you give them an idea, a project, and a date, that they would just run with it. Because they're linked in. That's the key. They're linked into the school and the principal and the teachers and to all those people that are key to moving it forward. You
Well,
or me, who's not really there
Right.
often, it's kind of hard.
Well, maybe what I can do is draft up a sort of a framework,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll include things like deadline and the basic parameters for at least for the poster competition, and then recycling competition. I don't know if that's something that would work as well, but I mean at least and maybe I'll run it past Peggy, and then could I get the person that
Yep.
you
I'll
talked
send
about,
you
these
her.
Green committee people,
Yeah,
and I can send it to
yeah.
those three.
And maybe it could be a sequential thing. Maybe the poster could advertise recycling and a recycling competition or recycling something, so that you're kind of linking the two. First, we're going to have a poster competition, then we're going to choose the winning poster, and that winning poster will then be displayed at all of the schools or whatever associated with Let's Get Recycling. So then you've got the kids thinking about recycling, and then somebody's poster is going to be posted there by the recycling cans. Hey, that's my poster. We should recycle, right? Because I just told the whole school we should recycle in my poster. So maybe kind of link it.
That's a good idea. I think I'll also send it to Banny Ackerman, who's the watershed teacher, a really great teacher. She may want to do something like that in her class, or may have some good ideas on how to work on it. So, all right, I'll work up some ideas and then circulate it around.
Okay, sounds great. Good, well, I'm glad we kept that on the agenda, Josh. Does anybody else have anything under community environmental awareness? No? Okay, next item, liaison reports. Chris, do you have anything to report on?
I do. Parks and Rec met on October 11th, and the bulk of the time we spent was discussing the response to the RFP for the Willows. The township received 9 responses of varying size and proposals, and we've scheduled a meeting, I believe it's November 20th, for each of those 9 proposers to come before Parks and Rec and make a 10 to 15 minute presentation, answer some questions about their proposals. I think the goal is to try and maybe pare that list down from 9 to 3 or 4 or 5 proposals that seem serious and make sense economically, as well as in fitting with what the township and the residents of the township might like to see, and then go forward with some public meetings about all that, in hopes of having something in place and ready to move forward by next August, which I think is the deadline for when we would shut everything down at the Willows.
Okay. From what I've read in the paper, it sounds like a pretty wide array of responses that you
I'm just starting to go
received.
through some of the responses, and it varies from building a boutique hotel on the property to a number of wedding event planners who would like to take possession of the property, to maybe some residential development off to the side. One nice thing is, from a quick review, and as I said, I haven't been in depth yet, they all understand the township's desire to leave as much of the open space that the public can use in place. So it's evolving, but it's going to evolve pretty quickly over the next 60 days.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is there any requirement that they keep the building?
No. And I think that's something that we're going to have to get feedback from the community about. How does the community feel about the importance of that building and maintaining that building architecturally, and figuring out the cost of doing that.
I thought I read, and I'm not sure if this is accurate, that at least some of the proposals would propose to keep it, to use it, maybe expand it, or use some of the outdoor areas and things like that. So perhaps as you get down the road with the proposers making their presentations, I'm sure community folks would have, lots to say about
Right.
that. I mean,
Yeah,
I think has been sort of treasured by a large segment of the community over the years, but
I did a brief read of the proposals, and I don't think any of them suggest knocking the building down.
Mhm.
Some of them talk about enhancing it, and others talk about just using it the way it is, but using tenting around the outside
Yeah,
to
I forgot
accommodate
that.
larger weddings and things
Okay.
like that. So it's a lot of information.
yeah.
It's going to be a long meeting.
Right. You have your work cut out for you.
What date was that for the?
I believe it's November 20th.
Okay.
But if you look on the website, that'll confirm when it's on there, when that meeting will be.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Next item is old business. Do we have any other items that we haven't discussed yet under old business? No? Okay. Anything under new business? No? Okay, and I just want to remind folks too that our next meeting will be on Tuesday, November 27th. As you know, at the end of the year, we have a combined November-December meeting because we have conflicts with the holidays often. So we move it from a Thursday night to Tuesday night. This is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It'll be here in the Township building at 6 o'clock, Tuesday, November 27th, and that will be our last meeting of the year. Okay.
One thing,
Yes.
I did hear on the radio coming over that this storm that's coming is apparently going to be could be very serious in our area. Apparently it's potentially a combination of a hurricane and a northern front coming through, and I think maybe even another front coming through. So they're saying starting Sunday, it could be very, very significant. Who knows what will actually happen, but I think folks should probably
My
be on
husband's
the-
already at the grocery store, I'll have you know.
Is he? He's ahead of the game.
You're right. He is one of those guys. You're right, exactly. We're covered. But you're right. Thank you, Sloan. Okay, with that, I think we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.